Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for welcoming me here. It's a pleasure to be a part of this wonderful community. And if you didn't know the story, we did move from New York a few years ago. And actually, I lived in the Bronx and lived in New York for most of my life. So this was like a major move for us. So to tell you a little bit about my story, I'm pretty much going to wing it, but just bear with me. So my mother is from Finland and my father is from Cuba. And so I guess that would make me either Cubish or Finuba. So take your choice. So in Finland, there's a special tradition practiced on New Year's Eve called uudenvuodentina, which in English is translated to tin casting. And this tradition actually came to Finland in the 18th century from ancient Greece. So it's something that they practice year after year on New Year's Eve. And when my mother introduced it to my older brother and I thought, okay, let's see what mom's gonna pull out of her bag this time. So I was a little curious and intrigued by it. And she didn't really tell us too much of what she was about to do. So she, right before the New Year's Eve ball was about to drop in Times Square. So she got set up with a few things. She got a ladle and then a piece of tin and then a bucket of cold water. So my brother and I had no idea what she was up to. And I thought this was pretty weird. So she, explained to us that we're going to do something really special. So just pay close attention. And so she took the ladle, got that piece of tin, which in Finland, when you practice this tradition, you actually can purchase the tin, but it's in the form of a horseshoe. And it's symbolic of good fortune. So she took the piece of tin, put on the ladle, and then put it over a fire on the stove. And so we kind of just waited, with curiosity as to what was going to happen next. And then holding the ladle and the tin that melted, not too hot, she asked us to stand back. And we watched her and we thought, okay, this is going to be either really scary or really interesting. So she poured this melted tin into a bucket of cold water. And, if you're from New York, you're expecting fireworks, you're expecting smoke to come out of this bucket of water. And we just waited patiently. And so she gave it a couple of minutes and then reached down, pulled out the tin that had formed different shapes in the water, from the water, being in the cold water. And so she turned off the lights, which really spooked us. So we thought, all right, what's going to happen next? And she grabbed a flashlight. And so she got up against the wall, and she held the tin there with the flashlight shining on it so that we could see the shadow of the tin. And so we're all just, kind of curious as to what was going to happen next. And so she turned it right, she turned it left, she turned it around, upside down. And then she said, I want you to look carefully. What do you see in the shadow? And my brother and I just kind of studied it carefully. And then as kids, being kids, we started to maybe, guess, oh, it looks like a dog. It looks like a baby carriage. And, it looks like a snake. And so she really said to us that this is what I want you to think about in terms of what this new year will bring you. So in the tradition, it's typical that if you were to see a square shape of the tin, then it would resemble or it would represent peace that you would receive for the next 12 months of the year. But it could also be maybe a bird, or it could look like a plane. And then that would indicate, we're going on a trip this year. And then if there were a lot of bubbles in it and it looked a bit rough, then that meant that you were going to have a lot of wealth. So we were really excited about that. So my brother and I kind of, talked about it, and there was great conversation, lots of laughter, sometimes some arguments debating on what that thing looked like. But it was really this time that we spent together, my mother sharing her heritage, sharing these really wonderful traditions in her culture, and passing that on to not only myself, but then being able to do that with my kids as well. So as we enter this season of this new year, it's really about, not so much about what that year is going to bring for you, but it really means more of what good fortune can you create within your families, and that really encompassing the love, the family, and the connection. Thank you.